Hi, my name is Mike, and I'm here to read a comic. And today's comic is The Avengers, issue number 184, dated June 1979. This is the conclusion of a two-issue arc here involving the Absorbing Man. And we can see the Absorbing Man, he's on some type of boat, a freighter actually. And in the previous issue, he had absorbed the turbine engines, the energy from the turbine engines, I should say. And he became quite a formidable foe for Earth's mightiest heroes. The cover, we see the oversized, the Absorbing Man, and he's holding Miss Marvel in his clutches, and we see the Vision, Beast, Iron Man, and Hawkeye attacking. And there would be a couple more Avengers coming up soon. So, nevertheless, I should mention one thing. There were changes in the creative team. Everything I say is just strictly speculation, but I suspect that what I had noticed in the previous issue, John Byrne noticed. And I figured he probably hit the roof when he had saw the previous issue. And I'll explain that once I get to the splash page. And we see the title of the issue is Death on the Hudson. And kind of stretching it a little, although I guess you can look at it in some ways there was a death. We see the Absorbing Man here, and at this point he's basically a living dynamo. And he is quite formidable. He's overmatching all the individual members of the Avengers. They're kind of looking at him in awe at this point, trying to figure out just how powerful he is at this time. And before I go into the story, I'll look at the creative team. David Michelin is the writer. Now, John Byrne is still the artist, but he has two credits. He's credited for pencils, and he's credited for choreography. I suspect the choreography involves the inkers. And when I give you the name of the inker of this issue, you'll kind of understand a little bit more. The inks are done by Da Hands. My suspicion was this. In the previous issue, it was inked by Klaus Janson. And Klaus has his style is very transparent in his inks. And the previous comic really sort of looked more like a Klaus Janson comic than a John Byrne comic. And I suspect when John Byrne saw that issue in print, he hit the roof. He must have been furious that basically Klaus Janson kind of hijacked his art. And it sort of reduced John to sort of just doing the layouts. And I suspect that John Byrne, he went to Jim Shooter, he went to, his editor, Roger Stern, and he wanted a change in inkers. And he must have been pissed off. Because it looks like the first two or three pages, it does look like Klaus Janson. But then as you go into the book, it looks more and more like John Byrne. So I suspect that by the time Byrne had seen the issue, Klaus Janson had probably inked at least 3 of his pages. No one was going to redo the artwork, so they kind of stuck with it. They probably assigned Klaus another comic, and I guess they got a whole bunch of inkers that John Byrne can kind of yell at and demand, this is how you do a John Byrne comic book. So I'm sure he was not much fun in the office that time. So anyway, we'll go into the story. We see the Absorbing Man. The Absorbing Man at this point, he just simply wants to leave the United States. He wants to leave all the, quote, superhero types away, because he's tired of fighting these guys like Thor and the Hulk and all that. And it's really not getting him anywhere. Every time he tangles with these guys, So he wants like a small country to himself that he can kind of terrorize and make his little fiefdom. And at the same time, he probably would not make enough noise to get real superhero entanglement. I suspect that the absorbing man, from his point of view, he probably thinks he's doing these guys a favor. Because he's basically saying, hey, dude, I'm offering to take myself out of the supervillain game. And you have one less guy to worry about. But the Avengers aren't looking at it that way. They're basically saying, we're just kicking the can and making you someone else's problem. And that's not what the Avengers are about. So they're determined to tangle with Creed. Creed, he strikes first with his ball and chain, very super powered. He misses. He's not really, at this point, he's not really looking to hurt someone. Although if he does hurt someone, he's not going to care. He just simply wants to kind of get rid of the Avengers at this point so he can live his dream of being kind of a tin pot dictator somewhere. Miss Marvel strikes first. Doesn't seem to hurt Creed, but definitely annoys him. Because he calls her a little witch. And then Creed immediately grabs Miss Marvel. At this point, he's sending a surge of energy through her. So it's not only that he's grabbing her in this iron fist grip, that she's also getting electric shock. She appears to be unconscious as Creed throws her into the Hudson River. The Beast sees that Miss Marvel is unconscious. He makes a very brave decision, and that is to dive into the Hudson River. Hudson River, 1979 water, that is not a pretty sight. We go back to the freighter, and we see Crusher Creed. He's tangling with the Wasp. The Wasp isn't afraid of a fight. However, the Wasp's stingers, they're not particularly effective against Creed in this form. However, he's still looking for his ball and chain because he prefers to use that as his weapon. Turns out the Vision has it. And he's just standing there, just waiting and waiting for Creed. And then he immediately belts Creed with the chain, the ball and chain. And he really sends him reeling here. However, Creed is so powerful at this point, it's just really a minor blow to him. The Vision, he's trying to hold off Creed using the ball and chain against him. But we see Iron Man coming from behind. And this is the point where this issue starts to look like a John Byrne book. This art is more, this says John Byrne. The previous art kind of said Klaus Janson. But we see here that Creed is as powerful as ever. But Iron Man, he comes from behind and he's absorbing the energy from Creed. So the absorbing man is getting absorbed himself. It's affecting Creed. He's smaller, and he's also becoming more disoriented. Iron Man is absorbing more and more power. So right now it's kind of a stalemate at this point. We go back to the Hudson River. We see that Miss Marvel is fishing out the Beast. It turned out that once Miss Marvel hit the cold water, it sort of woke her up. And then the roles reversed, and then it was Miss Marvel who was saving the Beast from being drowned. The Beast feels somewhat embarrassed, even though he shouldn't. I mean, he went in there to save a teammate. And we see a view from the sky where Miss Marvel and the Beast, they're above the fray. The Vision is looking on here because he doesn't want to disturb what Iron Man's doing. Iron Man and Creed, they're going at it one-on-one, kind of a wrestling match. Creed is getting smaller, so Creed is getting close to the size of what Iron Man is. Creed feels like he has the advantage at this point because he has Iron Man physically pinned to the ground. He's about to rip a right hand right into him. However, Iron Man uses a kind of a self-defense maneuver to trip Creed and fling him onto the deck. So Creed is off the freighter at this point, and he's in one of the dock warehouses. we see that through the hole that Creed had made as he was being thrown into this warehouse, Miss Marvel and the Beast, they fly in. See, the Beast makes an obscure reference, and quote, "Is Georgie Jessel Jewish?" Georgie Jessel was like an old vaudevillian comedian who became kind of a host of honor. So whenever they would have hosts or these important dinners, Georgie Jessel would be there and he'd tell us corny jokes and so forth. And it was very Catskills type stuff. So that's kind of a really dated reference, because even I wouldn't have known that at the time. We see the Wasp and the Vision. They're concerned about Iron Man. So right now the Beast is handling Crusher Creed. Iron Man's trying to deal with the issue of dealing with all this energy he's absorbed. The Wasp and the Vision, they don't know what to do, but Iron Man tells them, "I don't want you guys doing anything. I'll take care of this myself." Iron Man flies off, and he's letting the audience know with all these expository thoughts that he's basically going to release all this energy. But he is saying that he needs to be high enough as to not affect any people on Earth. So he's pretty high up in the atmosphere. Then we go back to the Avengers mansion. We see two individuals. We see Jarvis, who is the Avengers butler, manservant. And we see Agent Guidridge. Guidridge is the government liaison for the Avengers. So whenever the Avengers are entangled in anything involving the government bureaucracy, Agent Guidridge is kind of the point man there. And his character had changed from when he was first introduced. I think when he was first introduced, he was almost treated like comedy relief. And he was this very young, kind of, I guess, somewhat well-meaning, but kind of clumsy and awkward. And then Guidridge, he aged, which is unusual in the Marvel Universe. Most characters don't age. Guidridge aged visibly. He got older, he got grimmer, he got more efficient at his job. But nevertheless, he's the guy they have to deal with. We see, Guidridge and Jarvis, they're kind of exchanging pleasantries. Captain America and the Falcon show up. The Falcon, as I mentioned in the last issue, he's a reluctant member of the Avengers. He wants to go out on his own after partnering with Captain America for years. But the Falcon was picked to be a current member of the Avengers when the government decided to pare the team down. And the Falcon wasn't particularly happy about the circumstances. He's definitely a capable superhero. So no one can say that he's not worthy to be an Avenger. But nevertheless, he sort of feels like he's there to fulfill quota. And to a degree he is, because, if the Avengers are going to be sanctioned as a kind of a government agency, it has to sort of reflect it should reflect the norms and the aspirations of the people they're serving, and one of that is like, hey, no racial discrimination. And they're kind of worried, hey, if it's an all-white team, then we can be sued for not being diverse enough. And we know the diversity issue is with Marvel creators. But nevertheless, Captain America convinces the Falcon that he should stick it out because it's worth it. So anyway, Jarvis updates Captain America and the Falcon, basically with by the way, the rest of the team is fighting for their lives against the Absorbing Man. Captain America's a little startled by this. he kind of was like, hey, what the fuck? Why didn't you mention this earlier? Because these four were exchanging pleasantries. But the two heroes take off. Guydrich is more concerned about his government paperwork being filled out than what's actually going on in terms of the battle. Falcon does not like Guydrich at all. He's kind of playing the subservient Negro role, kind of to taunt and mock Guydrich, and letting him know how he feels. Captain America is sympathetic to the Falcon, but again, he plays the greater good card. So both Captain America and Falcon, they leave the Avengers mansion. The Falcon through his own power, and Captain America on some type of gyro bike that he can fly in the air. The two are off to the docks to encounter the Absorbing Man. And we see the three of them because Red Wing, the Falcon's hawk, is there. And they encounter the Vision and Hawkeye, in hopes of kind of getting an update and seeing what's going on and what they can do. Hawkeye was a member of the Avengers. He wanted to be a member of the Avengers, but he was let go in place of the Falcon. But the two actually had never met, so this is the first time Hawkeye is seeing the Falcon. He's not impressed. So he's not impressed with the Falcon. I think part of that's probably hurt feelings. Okay, before we go back to the story, we see some Marvel merchandising here. Yeah, I would not have been interested in any of this stuff at this time. But I'm sure there were other kids who were. Okay, so we'll go back to the story. The rest of the team, they aren't quite sure where Creed is, the Absorbing Man is. But they know he's around there. They see Miss Marvel. She's at the door of a particular facility. I think they already know, so I was a little wrong there. They already know that the Beast is there with Creed. And the Vision is kind of questioning the logic, basically saying, hey, if A+ guys like me couldn't handle Creed, what's a B guy like the Beast is gonna do? So the Vision's kind of like feeling not too confident in his teammate. However, Miss Marvel is saying, hey, don't worry, Hank has this covered. The rest of the team kind of looks startled and amused. And they see the Beast, and the Beast is kind of twirling the Absorbing Man around, kind of like they're part of a circus act here. The Beast's thinking is that if you keep the Absorbing Man in this state, there's nothing for him to grab onto to absorb. So he's sort of keeping Crusher Creed in his human form here, which is what you want, even though he's still a formidable opponent. However, I think this is a power that they just made up in this issue, but Creed was able to absorb the Beast's power. So he's blue and hairy, and apparently he has kind of the proportional strength and the agility of the real Beast. And since now the Beast is fighting an equal and someone who's bigger than him, the Beast is immediately thrown away. I don't previously remember Crusher Creed being able to do that. I always remembered him absorbing inanimate objects. But of course, this is comic book science, so science works the way the writer needs it to work. Captain America, he throws his mighty shield, and it immediately takes Crusher right out of the game because he's really kind of pounded right into these boxes of cargo. However, it turns out that was a big mistake because Creed's still conscious, and he immediately absorbs the special alloy from Captain America's shield. Excuse that. So right now, he's basically a metallic version of Captain America's shield. Miss Marvel goes in first. She's very powerful. So she can hit Creed for a while in this form. However, it's very tough going for her because basically she's hitting solid metal. Now, at this point, it goes back to the freighter. And we see the captain of the freighter. He's talking to some members of the crew. He says that even though they had that superhero excursion, for lack of a better word, there's not much damage to the freighter, and we could take off pretty much at any time, and we probably should. Sandy, the hostage, who was still on the boat, she hears the destination of the ship. And it's some, kind of small, made-up South American country. She decides she's not going there. She's being held against her will. And then, I'm not going to look at the ads. They're not that interesting. And then we see Sandy immediately leaves the freighter. She says, I'm only here because of that creep Creed. I'm not going down to, any South American country. I'm going to go back to Hoboken. So Sandy leaves the freighter. However, as she's leaving, she sees Iron Man flying back from the atmosphere back to the docks to face Creed again. It turns out Iron Man's really pissed off. So the other members, they're still fighting Creed. Now Creed's still using the Beast powers that he absorbed. So he's basically a larger version of the Beast. But he could still handle these guys. But then it turns out that Iron Man enters the fray. He fires his repulsor rays. And then we see Iron Man. He's really ticked off here because absorbing all that power from Creed earlier really took a physical toll on him. One of the things that had been going on with Iron Man for a long time was that unless it affected his heart, there were no physical consequences for Tony Stark being in that battle suit. And around this time, I think Marvel kind of realized that they should incorporate that, Tony Stark is actually taking a beating in this suit. So, again, call him the Invincible Iron Man. He has this great metallic suit. But they started making it clear that, hey, the human inside is feeling this stuff. So Iron Man's really ticked off because the power that he had absorbed and let go did take a physical toll on him. Creed is not sympathetic at all. Remember, this guy has spent plenty of years in the prison yard. So empathy is an alien concept to him. And we see Sandy, she's trying to get away from this particular area. She's hoping not to run into Creed. However, that's exactly what happens. So Iron Man, he grabs Creed and they jettison out of that warehouse. And Sandy sees the two, so she's kind of trapped, kind of cornered between these two powerful beings. They're still slugging it out. And we see Iron Man. He throws the first punch. However, it doesn't really affect Creed much because apparently the metal alloy that makes up Captain America's shield actually might be more powerful than the metal that Iron Man is using for his battle suits. So at this point, Creed has a huge advantage. He actually ends up damaging some of Iron Man's circuitry, and he's right here ready to take advantage of it in terms of getting rid of Iron Man. Iron Man, if he was in pain before this, he's in a lot of pain right now, and he's feeling this, and it's not good. However, Creed notices Sandy from the corner of his eye, and that was enough to startle him into dropping that power. There is a failsafe with Creed in that if he's rattled or if he's distracted long enough, he will drop the power that he's currently absorbing. However, Creed still has kind of, he still feels somewhat possessive of her. So at this point, he views her as, I guess, his, so to speak. We see Creed, he's running away with Sandy. Sandy's pleading, so this is definitely not a consensual relationship. Creed wants to catch the boat, and he apparently still wants her to be company. The other Avengers, they're not going to allow that. Iron Man is telling the Wasp and the Vision, don't worry about me, go after Creed. I'm going to be fine. I'm bent, but I'm not broke. Creed is running toward the dock. He was expecting the freighter to be there. The freighter wasn't there, and Creed is pissed off that his fight with the Avengers was what delayed his ability to catch the freighter. He's really pissed at them right now. He, again, is making the kind of plead that, hey, just let me go, just let me do my thing, I won't be your problem anymore. Again, the Avengers aren't buying that. They're saying, hey, you're going to be a problem. May not be for us directly, but for someone else, and that's not fair. We have to stop you. All the members of the Avengers are there, although Iron Man does have to be helped by Captain America. Creed, who still has Sandy, actually lets her go at this point. He doesn't want to use her as a hostage. He doesn't even want her harmed. So he's just kind of pushing her away so she can get out and escape this. Sandy's a little surprised by this because this is a show of empathy that she wasn't expecting. And then Creed is just pissed off at this point. He just wants to strike out. He strikes out at the Vision simply because the Vision is physically closer to him. He grabs a hold of the Vision. He plans on absorbing the Vision's powers. And the Vision uses that to his advantage. Because one of his powers is transparency, the ability to sort of phase through solid objects. But the thing is, it requires some skill to use this power because the Vision can stand on physical form while he's in this intangible form because he's practicing, he knows how to control his power. Crusher Creed doesn't, so he's transparent, but he doesn't know how to, I guess, center himself on a physical form, so he just goes right through the dock, and he ends up in the Hudson River. He reverts back to his human form because his previous transparent form wasn't helping him at all. And Creed sees the freighter, he sees it going away. However, he feels that he could swim and maybe he could reach it. So he sort of has this dream of just escaping at this point. Okay, before I go back to the story, I'll take a look at bullpen bulletins. Honestly, this is not much different than the previous issue. They talk about the price change, they talk about some of the team-ups. The only thing that's different really is they're highlighting X-Men number 122. That was definitely the comic I was waiting for this month. This issue was sort of a character building issue. So there was no real action in it. However, it kind of expanded on who the X-Men were in terms of people and some of the challenges they had faced. This stuff was really revolutionary because Chris Claremont was really the first guy to sort of go into this much depth with these characters. And the only thing, that's really the only thing that's different from last month. So we go back. I'm not going to bother the Twinkies ad. So we see Crusher Creed, he's swimming away. He sees the members of the Avengers, the ones who can fly, are coming after him. He's seeing the freighter going further and further. One of the things that Creed said to himself, that he said he was not going to lose a fight. However, a draw is not a loss. So at this point, Creed absorbs the water around him to avoid being captured. Miss Marvel is kind of startled by this because she knows how much trouble this guy is going to have reassembling himself, and it could be a while. So she's a little confused as to why she would take that out. The Vision figures the guy had some dignity. He just kind of, he didn't want to take the DL, but at the same time, he didn't want to continue the fight. So he took a way out that was, that kind of gave him some dignity. The other members of the Avengers, they're kind of just sitting around the dock, kind of catching their breath and kind of getting their bearings. The Beast is trying to take possession of the ball and chain. It's too heavy for him. Sandy is talking to Iron Man, and she's mentioning to Iron Man that maybe it would not have been a bad thing to let Creed go. I kind of don't agree with that. So she's kind of looking at that one act of kindness, I think, probably a little too hard. So that's the end of the story. The next issue would deal mostly with Quicksilver and the Scarlet Witch, because they were also going through a heavy personal crisis themselves. And we'll take a look at the letters page. Honestly, the letters page, there wasn't much going on with it. One person here is suggesting one of three pencilers, because I guess at the time that he had wrote this letter, there was no real set individual. George Perez had just left, so they weren't quite sure who was going to carry the torch after him. It turned out his second choice, John Byrne, was the guy who got the job. He had mentioned John Buscema coming back. John Buscema would not have enjoyed drawing the Avengers at this time. Mentioned Dave Cockrum. Dave Cockrum he was too slow a penciler. Also, Dave Cockrum, he had some health issues, so he would not have been able to do it. The second one, the person is just going on about adamantium and, its kind of properties and so forth. Dude, seriously, this is a made-up element. So they kind of answer him back, I don't think they really wanted to get too deep in it. And the last letter is about the possible lineup that he would want, because apparently it was known to the readers that they were going to cut down on the characters, and kind of suggested some of the members of the Guardians of the Galaxy. Back then I would have been like, who cares? But thinking about it as a collector, having like an early appearance of the Guardians probably would have made the comics much more valuable. And they kind of they don't really answer him back. So that's about it. So I think that's it. That's my review of The Avengers, issue number 184. And I hope to have more reviews up soon. Bye.